Hey guys, so last week C-Boom was able to guess the card art in the background, which is Wall of Faith. If you'd like your comment featured in the next video, go ahead and put in the comments what you think this card art is.
What's up guys, we're the Jank Divers, where we dive into the janky side of Commander. I'm Isaac.
And I'm Brent, and today we're diving into Akiri Nuke. So our commander today, Akiri Fearless Voyager, was suggested to us by a user, Calamitous Cactus. If you'd like to see the commander you want built in a future video, drop it in the comments and we'll see if we can get to it. So our commander today is Akiri, 1 colorless, 1 red, 1 white, for a legendary creature, Core Warrior 3/3. Whenever you attack a player with 1 or more equipped creatures, draw a card, and you can pay a white and you may unattach your equipment from a creature you control. If you do, tap that creature and it gains indestructible until end of turn. We have a lot of ways to use this card in our deck. We have some shenanigans we'll show you in a minute, but for some more general uses, the way the ability is worded, the more unique players you attack, so say you had 3 creatures and you attack 3 different people, you would draw 3 cards, but if you attacked the same person with 3 creatures, you would only draw 1, and those creatures do have to have equipment on them, so you're incentivized to spread your equipment out until you need to go for the kill. You can also use the indestructible ability either for the interactions we're about to tell you, or just if you need to get your creature in for like an attack trigger, or if they have a really big blocker but you have trample, you can attack and just make your creature indestructible so it would survive combat. This can let you draw cards, get attack effects off your equipment cards, etc.
So when I first saw Akiri, the first thing I thought of was the Stuffy doll effects. So these Stuffy doll effects, all of them when they're dealt damage, you're going to get to deal that much damage to your opponent as well. This is good for making the ones that aren't indestructible with your commander, and letting them rack up a ton of damage, a lot more than they usually would be able to. They are also just pretty good for our equipment plan, trying to equip them up with massive artifacts and swing in and attack. It makes it so that way even if they do block it, they're still going to be taking damage from their passive abilities. So let's just go ahead and read through these real quick. Stuffy doll, 5 mana, 0/1. It's indestructible. When it enters the battlefield, you choose a player. When Stuffy doll is dealt damage, it deals that much damage to the chosen player. And you can also tap it to deal 1 damage to itself. So being indestructible is nice. This one's probably one of the weaker ones just because you choose 1 player. So even after that player dies, it's not much more than a 0/1 with indestructible. But while that player's alive, you get a lot of value off of this. We also have Spiteful Sliver, 3 mana, 2/2. Sliver creatures you control have, whenever this creature is dealt damage, it deals that much damage to target player or planeswalker. This one's pretty good just because of its low mana cost. It does not have indestructible, so in order to rack up a lot of damage, you might have to make it indestructible or equip it with a high toughness equipment. Mog Maniac, same thing, same problem. 2 mana, 1/1, but whenever it's dealt damage, it deals that much damage to target opponent. Boros Reckoner, 3 mana, 3/3. And whenever it's dealt damage, it deals that much damage to any target, which is nice if they have a creature that's more bothersome than a player. You can just blow up that creature instead of dealing that damage to a player. It can also, you can pay 1 to give it first strike until end of turn, which is pretty helpful if we're trying to go for just an equipment beatdown and they have like a death touch blocker or something along those lines.
The next group of cards I want to talk about is first our last Stuffy doll, Brash Taunter, for a 5 mana, 1/1 with indestructible. Has the whenever he's dealt damage, deals that much damage to target opponent. Also has 2 and a red to tap and fight another creature. You know, it's a repeatable removal spell that also deals damage to your opponent in the process, which can be nice, especially when he has equipment on him. The next group of cards we want to talk about is our Encore Creatures, and all 3 of them have the kind of strange ability to pay 0 at any time to redirect 1 damage from Shaman to a creature you control. So obviously redirecting damage dealt to these creatures to either other indestructible creatures or 2 Stuffy Doll type cards can either rack up a lot of damage and just make these creatures very difficult to kill, which is nice for a number of reasons.
Next up, we have our actual nuke cards. So with 1 Stuffy Doll out, or 2 Stuffy Dolls out, or even a Stuffy Doll and a couple Encore Creatures out, you're going to be able to deal a lot of damage to your opponents with these cards. These are just like the big bad burn spells of Commander. So Star of Extinction for 7 mana, destroy target land, and then Star of Extinction deals 20 damage to each creature and each planeswalker. So with just 2 Stuffy Doll effects, or 1 Stuffy Doll effect and 1 Encore creature, you're going to get to redirect all that damage to an opposing player. 40 damage is enough to kill anybody without, if they don't have any life gain. That's a lot of damage.
Now that's a lot of damage!
Comet Storm is a little bit more interesting. 2 mana in X with multi-kicker 1. You choose any target, then choose another target for each time the spell was kicked, and deal X damage to each of them. This is useful if you don't have indestructible on some of your creatures, or if you just don't have enough Stuffy Doll effects out there. You can just choose just a few creatures and blow up the ones that really matter, and still deal some big damage to your Stuffy Doll effects you do have out there. You can also just flat out deal X damage to your opponent this way. And with a Stuffy Doll effect, you can actually target your opponent and the Stuffy Doll to kind of double up on the damage by just paying 1 more.
It's also perfectly reasonable to use these as just your regular board wipes if you find yourself in a tough spot, because we have multiple of them. If you have to use one as a board wipe, you should still be able to find another one to close the game out.
Also, never before seen on Jank Divers, Helm of the Host. For 4 mana, it has, at the beginning of combat on your turn, create a token. I don't need to read this. You guys have seen this in like all of our decks. But this one's really good in this deck, especially because we can just equip onto one of our Stuffy Doll effects and start pumping out a different Stuffy Doll every turn. As you can see with any of our group damage effects, 1 extra Stuffy Doll effect is going to deal a lot more damage, 13 or 20 extra damage for each Stuffy Doll effect that we have. So it can be very powerful and get out of hand quite quickly.
You can also copy your commander if you need to draw more cards, as the tokens aren't legendary. Next up, we're going to talk about some Pariah effects. So Pariah for 2 colorless and a white enchant creature. All damage that will be dealt to you is dealt to the enchanted creature instead. Pariah Shield, a 5 mana equipment with equip 3, has the similar ability of all damage that will be dealt to you is dealt to equipped creature instead. And then the next card we're going to talk about is called Arc Bond. For 2 colorless and a red, it's an instant. Choose target creature. Whenever that creature is dealt damage this turn, it deals that much damage to each other creature and each player. And Isaac, why don't you go ahead and explain the combo we have set up here?
All right, so picture this. You're playing a game of Commander with your friends, and they're starting to get on your nerves. So you want to kill them all at the same time. Well, let me explain how you can do that with this deck. So all you need to do is get an indestructible creature. So luckily our Commander makes creatures indestructible until end of turn. So all we need is any random equipment attached to a creature, and then use Akiri's ability to tap the creature and remove the equipment from it. So we'll tap the creature, remove the equipment from it, and now it's indestructible until end of turn. Perfect. So next up, we need to attach Pariah to the indestructible creature. So then all damage that will be dealt to you is dealt to the enchanted creature instead. So now it will be indestructible, so we can take an infinite number of damage this turn. So next up, we play Arc Bond onto the indestructible Pariah creature. So choose target creature. Whenever that creature is dealt damage this turn, it deals that much damage to each other creature and each player. So this includes you. So it's going to deal damage to each player, but the damage that would be dealt to you is redirected to Akiri, and then it would deal damage to each player again, and it's redirected to Akiri. And since Akiri is indestructible in this case, it'll just keep on taking that damage and dealing that damage to each player. So then all we need to do is find a way to deal damage to ourselves. So you can do it any number of ways. You can even deal damage to Akiri somehow, but all we need to do is, tap a Battlefield Forge, for example, and that deals 1 damage to us, and that starts the loop. So this is going to instantaneously kill your friends and maybe even send them crying home to their mommy.
Now we're going to talk about the backup plan, so to speak, which is just to aggro people out with a lot of equipment. So the first card we're going to talk about is Colossus Hammer, 1 colorless artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +10/+10 and loses flying for an equip cost of 8, which we do have ways to get around that we'll show you later. Argentum Armor for 6 mana, an equipped creature gets +6/+6, and whenever it attacks, destroy target permanent for an equipped 6. Next up, we're going to talk about Black Blade Reforged. For 2 colorless legendary artifact equipment, equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each land you control. You can pay 3 to equip it to a legendary creature, or pay 7 to equip it to a non-legendary creature. And then finally we have Ember Cleave, 4 colorless and 2 red for legendary equipment with flash. This spell costs 1 colorless less to cast for each attacking creature you control. When Ember Cleave enters the battlefield, attach it to a creature you control. Equipped creature gets +1 and has double strike and trample. And then you can also just pay 3 to equip it if you need to move it around after. All of these, obviously, when put onto our commander or put onto a Stuffy doll, are going to present a lot of damage to our opponent without any shenanigans required. Ember Cleave in particular lets you sneak in double strike after blockers are declared due to its instance attach compared with flash. So if you attack with like your commander and it only is 10 power and they don't block it, you can flash in Ember Cleave and kill them, which is always kind of funny.
Batterskull, 5 mana living weapon. Equipped creature gets +4/+4 and has vigilance and lifelink. You can also pay 3 mana to return Batterskull to its owner's hand. This card is very good if you're getting a lot of removal spells towards your creatures. Batterskull can just keep on bouncing itself and coming back out to always have a creature to equip equipment onto. It has an equip cost of 5, which is pretty steep, but it's a really powerful effect. And we also have some cards later on that will show you to reduce the cost of some of these equip costs. We also have Shadow Spear, 1 mana, equipped creature gets +1/+1 and has trample and lifelink, equipped 2. It also has 1 mana, permanents your opponent's control lose hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. This is really good for our damage-based board wipes, because if one of our opponents has an indestructible creature, we normally would have problems trying to kill that creature, but Shadow Spear can just make it lose indestructible until end of turn, and then we can play one of those damage board wipes. It also doesn't hit our indestructible creatures, which is nice because we have a lot of them. Brash Taunter, or any of our Stuffy doll effects, are way more powerful with lifelink on them. So if you equip one of these equipment onto one of our Stuffy doll or Brash Taunter effects, whenever they're dealt damage, they're going to deal that much damage to target player, and then you will gain that life off of it. So any amount of damage that's dealt to any of your Stuffy doll effects, you're also going to gain that much life as well.
Next up, we're going to talk about some ramp equipment, one of our more creative ways to ramp in Boros, as people will surely tell you it's a little hard sometimes, but we manage here. So Dowsing Dagger for 2 colorless and equipment. When Dowsing Dagger enters the battlefield, target opponent creates 2/2 green plant tokens with Defender. Equipped creature gets +2/+1. Whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, you may transform Dowsing Dagger, and it has equipped 2. And it transforms into Lost Veil, a land that can tap and add 3 mana of any one color to your mana pool. So Black Lotus land, which is always nice. Sword of Feast and Famine, a 3 colorless artifact. Equipped creature gets +2/+2 and has protection from black and from green. Whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, that player discards a card and you untap all lands you control. So that kind of doubles your mana. And then it has an equip of 2. Sword of the Animus, 2 colorless. Equipped creature gets +1/+1. Whenever equipped creature attacks, you may search your library for a basic land card and put it out. onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library for equip 2. All of these very synergistic with our commander. They're all equipment, so we get a lot of benefits off of them that way. Very useful.
We also have Clock of Omens. Now, I included this card in here because it's a really weird way to turn our equipments into even more value. So any of our artifacts that tap for mana, so any of our mana rocks, or I included the 3 artifact lands in our colors, make our equipment, you just tap 2 equipment to untap one of our artifact rocks, and it just lets you sort of tap those equipments for mana. So this is a really weird way to ramp, but I think it's very powerful if you can get it going.
We also have some more shenanigans with Clock of Omens. So if you have Clock of Omens and a Pyromancer Goggles out, first Pyromancer Goggles, a 5 mana legendary artifact, you can tap to add a red to your mana pool. When this mana is spent to cast a red instant or sorcery spell, copy that spell, and you may choose new targets for the copy. So Pyromancer's Goggles lets you double up on your Comet Storms, Blasphemous Axe, Star of Extinction types effects to double our damage onto a Stuffy doll. You can also use it on other instants, such as the Valakut Awakening, which is a 2 colorless and a red instant. Put any number of cards from your hand on the bottom of your library, then draw that many +1. And the other side, you can play it as a red land that enters tapped, if you don't need the spell at the moment. With Pyromancer's Goggles, you can dig through your deck very quickly like that, and then add in Clock of Omens, and you can tap your 2 equipments or something to untap the Pyromancer's Goggles, and you can copy any instant or sorcery like 2 or even 3 times, which can kill a lot of people if you're using it on one of our board wipes. Very powerful interaction.
We also have some ways to help us cheat out the equipment costs. Now, some of our equipment cost a lot of mana, 8 or 5 mana to equip. So having some ways to get past that equip cost and still have those equipments equipped onto a creature is very powerful. So Nahiri, Heir of the Ancients, for 4 mana, +1 is create a 1/1 white core warrior creature token. You may attach an equipment you control to it. So it doesn't let you cheat it out onto a different creature, but just putting it out onto a 1/1 is even fine with it, like Colossus Hammer. Its +1 is basically making 11/11. Very powerful. So the -2, look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may reveal a warrior or equipment card from among them and put it into your hand. Then you put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. If you already have most of your equipment already attached to a creature, you can kind of hit the -2 button just to try to get some more value, trying to find a warrior or equipment card. The -3 is actually pretty useful here. The Nahiri, Heir of Ancients, deals damage to target creature or planeswalker equal to twice the number of equipment you control. So if you have like 5 or 6 equipment out, you're going to deal like 10 or 12 damage to any creature. So we can actually hit a player with this one if we have one of our Stuffy doll effects by just targeting our own creature, or we can just hit some other creature our opponent's control that's been causing us problems. We also have Nahiri the Lithomancer, 5 mana, +2, put a 1/1 white core soldier token onto the battlefield, and then you may attach an equipment you control to it. Again, this is good for the same reasons that the other Nahiri's +1 is good. -2 lets us get an equipment card from our hand or graveyard onto the battlefield. So if somebody blew up one of our good big equipments, we can just get it back. Or if we need to cheat out a really expensive equipment, this is also helpful for that. Its -10 is put a colorless equipment artifact token named Stoneforge Blade onto the battlefield. It has indestructible. Equipped creature gets +5/+5 and has double strike and equip 0. So this equipment is really hard to handle due to being indestructible. Most artifact removal says destroy it. This basically makes it almost impossible to remove and gives us basically 10/10 worth of stats. Sometimes more if you have other equipment on it. So very powerful if you manage to get up to the -10. Pure Steel Paladin. 2 mana 2/2, and whenever an equipment enters the battlefield under your control, you may draw a card. Now we have a lot of equipment in this deck, so we're going to draw a lot of cards with this ability as well. But the main reason we're running it is because equipment you control have equip 0 as long as you control 3 or more artifacts. So it's pretty easy for us to get to 3 or more artifacts. Equip 0 is a very powerful ability for us, just being able to move around our equipment for free and put it on whoever we want to. We can even put equipment onto creatures, attack with them, and then move it on to other creatures that didn't attack, so we can have defenders out there. So it's just a really versatile card and really helps us keep going without having to spend a lot of mana.
Next up, we have some more ways to cheat equipment onto creatures. So first up, Hammer of Nazan for colorless legendary equipment. Whenever Hammer of Nazan or another equipment enters the battlefield under your control, you may attach that equipment to target creature you control. So obviously, every time you play an equipment, just go ahead and equip it for free. Very good. And the equipped creature gets +2/+0 and has indestructible, which is obviously indestructible is very relevant for us. And it has an equip cost of 4 if you need to move it around again. Stonehewer Giant, 3 and 2 white for a 4/4 giant warrior. Vigilance, 1 colorless and 1 white. Tap, search your library for an equipment card and put it onto the battlefield. Attach it to a creature you control, then shuffle your library. So not only is this a tutor for any equipment you could want in your deck, it's also a card advantage engine as it's repeatable every turn, and it equips the equipment for free. So it does kind of everything we want, which is very useful. Sigarda's Aid, 1 white for an enchantment. You may cast aura and equipment spells as though they had flash. Whenever an equipment enters the battlefield under your control, you may attach it to target creature you control. Playing equipment at flash speed and then equipping them instantly as well, as we've seen with the Ember Cleave, can lead to some really powerful combat interactions, which is always nice.
We also have some ways to just cheapen the equip cost on our creatures, since it's so important for us to have an equipped creature at all time to keep our commander's draw engine going and to just be as aggressive as possible. We have Zerda the Dawnwaker, which for 3 mana is a 3/3. That abilities you activate that aren't mana abilities cost 2 colorless less to activate. It can't make it cheaper than 1 mana to activate, but it still lets us reduce the cost of our equipment down to at least 1, or some of our really expensive equip costs down to be a little bit more affordable. So it can also pay 1 colorless mana and tap it to make target creature not block this turn, which is useful if somebody only has 1 good blocker. Then they have to make some hard choices or take a lot of damage. We also have Ariok Steel Shaper, which for 2 mana is a 1/1 with equip costs you pay cost 1 less. And as long as it's equipped, soldiers and knights you control get +1/+1. So just having equip costs be just 1 less is really powerful, especially if the equipment only cost 1 to equip. Now it's 0 to equip. Being able to move that around really fast is really, really powerful without having to pay mana. We also have Fervent Champion, which for 1 mana is a 1/1 with first strike and haste. And whenever it attacks, another target attacking knight you control gets +1/+0 until end of turn. And equip abilities you activate that target Fervent Champion cost 3 less to activate. So this does only let us equip to Fervent Champion, but it is very powerful because a lot of our equip costs do cost 3 or less to equip. Pretty much half of our equipment in our deck can equip on a Fervent Champion for free. So just having this one creature that gets to become really powerful for only 1 mana is quite good.
Next up, we have some tutors we want to talk about. First up is going to be Inventor's Fair, a legendary land. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 3 or more artifacts, you gain 1 life. You can tap it for a colorless, and then you can pay 4, tap it, sacrifice Inventor's Fair, search your library for an artifact card, reveal it, and put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. Activate this ability only if you have 3 or more artifacts. So you could grab a Clock of Omens or any equipment you need at the current time. There's a lot of options in our deck, obviously. Stoneforge Mystic, 2 mana, 1/2 core artificer. when Stoneforge Mystic enters the battlefield, you may search your library for an equipment card, reveal it, and put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. So obviously we have a lot of powerful equipment options that you can tutor up, and you can pay 1 colorless and a white, tap it. You may put an equipment card from your hand onto the battlefield. Lets you play out your equipment for free, or for 2, I guess. So you could play your Argentum Armor for 2 mana instead of 6, which is always nice. Open the armory for 1 and a white. Search your library for an aura or equipment card and reveal it and put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. This can grab, obviously, any equipment. It can also grab Pariah the aura if Pariah the artifact equipment was destroyed somehow, which is always nice.
We also have some more ways to draw cards, just because you can never draw enough cards in Commander. SRAM Senior Edificer for 2 mana is a 2/2. Whenever you cast an aura, equipment, or vehicle spell, draw a card. Now, we don't have a lot of auras or vehicles, but we do have a lot of equipment, so we're still going to be drawing a lot of cards off of SRAM. We also have Mangara the Diplomat, 4 mana 2/4 with lifelink. And whenever an opponent attacks with creatures, if 2 or more of those creatures are attacking you and or planeswalkers you control, draw a card. And whenever an opponent casts their second spell each turn, draw a card. You're going to be drawing a lot of cards with Mangara, while also having a 2/4 with lifelink, which is really good to start equipping up and attacking with. Gaining life is powerful against other aggressive decks and decks just trying to kill you by reducing your life total to 0. We also have Infiltration Lens, which is a 1 mana equipment. Whenever equipped creature becomes blocked by a creature, you may draw 2 cards and equip cost of 1. So if you're attacking with a really big creature, they get put in this really awkward scenario where they have to either block you or let you draw cards, which is very powerful.
Next up, we want to talk about Sunforger for 3 colorless and equipment. Equipped creature gets +4/+0, and you may pay red and white to unattach Sunforger. Search your library for a red or white instant card with converted mana cost 4 or less and cast that card without paying its mana cost. Then shuffle your library, and it has an equip cost of 3. So this is a hybrid like tutor and card advantage engine that also happens to buff our creature and be an equipment, so it's obviously like the perfect card for this deck. Some notable targets are going to be removal spells such as Generous Gift, which for 2 and a white destroys target permanent. Its controller creates a 3/3 elephant creature token, so Beast Within, accepted as white, gets rid of anything, even a land, which is nice. Swords to Plowshares, an instant exile target creature. Its controller gains life equal to its power, just a very cheap catch-all answer to any problematic creature. Chaos Warp, 2 colorless and a red instant. The owner of target permanent shuffles it into their library, then reveals the top card of their library. If it's a permanent card, they put it onto the battlefield. So this is a very good effect to have, as if they have an indestructible creature, or if they're a graveyard deck and they can just get their creature back were you to destroy it. You can shuffle it into their deck, which makes it harder for them to get it back. And most of the time, they're going to flip up something like a land that's going to be worse than whenever you removed with it.
We also have Valakut Awakening, which for 3 mana, put any number of cards from your hand on the bottom of your library, then draw that many +1. So if you've been top decking a bunch of lands for the past few turns, you can just use your Sunforger to search up Valakut Awakening and trade all those cards in and hopefully draw some better cards. Boros Charm, really versatile. Choose 1, deal 4 damage to target player or planeswalker. Permanents you control gain indestructible until end of turn, and target creature gains double strike until end of turn. So since Sunforger's activated ability is at instant speed, you can wait, and if you get like a 10-10 through and they don't block it because they think they're just going to take 10 damage, you can search up double strike at instant speed and deal 20 damage to that player. Or if somebody plays some sort of board wipe and you don't have equipment on to make them indestructible with your commander, you can just tutor up a Boros Charm and make all your permanents indestructible until end of turn. We can also find our combo piece Arc Bond with Sunforger. So if you have all the other combo pieces out, you can just find that last piece of the combo and start just killing everybody.
That's going to be it for Akiri Nuke. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, we'd appreciate if you left a like on the video, and if you subscribed if you'd like to see more videos like this. And remember, you can guess the card art in the background in the comments. We'll feature your comment in the next video. We also didn't go over every single card, so if you'd like to see the full list, that'll be in the description as well. And if you have any other commanders you'd like to see us build, drop your request in the comments and we'll try and get to it. Thanks for watching.